Said the other day, I think it was Cutie on duty. She said something I didn't know. She said if the goat came back, then the dominant society would have to deal with their curse. So with that concept, we're coming back. Our goats are coming back home on this space. We're coming back to them, and they're going to have to deal with the curse. What my daddy said, 5 years for a collapse.
Oh boy.
It's coming. My daddy usually be right about stuff like that.
What does he say about an asteroid?
I don't know. He had to go to bed. He's like, all right, that was fine. I got to go to bed.
What? You gotta wait.
Preparation H works on hemorrhoids. That's about as close as we can get.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Diesel Law, what's on your mind?
Y'all discuss a lot. I'm gonna cook for a minute. I got like 3 7 points. All right. So I'm gonna address something head on, discussing the Black American phenotype. It is not a white supremacist talking point. I was talking with a doctor earlier in one of the spaces, and she was kind of hinting to that. I mean, respect to her, we get along more times than not on 90% of the things, especially tackling white supremacy. But the Black American phenotype is a reclamation of truth and not a surrender to oppression. When we speak on our phenotype, the broad noses, the tightly coiled hair, the strong jawlines, the rich copper color, skin tone, and the unique expressions, we're identifying cultural markers of an ethnogenetic people who develop under specific environmental, historical, and genetic conditions in the United States. Phenotype is really culture coded. It's really how groups really distinguish themselves, protect their heritage, and assert lineage. When the Appalachian whites or even West Africans and even Jewish people speak on their features and lineage continuity, no one accuses them of internalizing supremacy or Zionification or any other buzzword talking points people are saying now. But when the Foundation of Black Americans so long there to discuss our phenotype, it suddenly becomes taboo. That's ideological sabotage that they're trying to push on us. So let's be clear on that. Physical anthropology confirms that a distinct population evolved unique phenotypes based on ancestral regions and social selections. So if you read that, you can read Michael Bakley's Bi-Archaeology of African Americans. The ethnogenesis, which is not theory, states that when displaced, oppressed, and culturally forged populations, they form under any type of duress, whereas we formed under extreme duress, like chattel slavery.
Right.
They don't retain the full phenotype or cultural identity of any of their origin groups. They form a new people with a distinctive and physical and cultural traits. And if you break down the scientific genetic studies from, was it Brian E. Al, the genetic ancestry of African Americans from Nature.com in 2015, it really confirms that Foundation of Black Americans have a unique admixture distinct from any African nation, averaging around 70 to about 80% West African, 20 to 25 European, and then sometimes up to 10% Indigenous American. This admixture has shaped not only identity, but a phenotypic appearance over generations. A lot of people will try to say, oh, your orange is African, your orange is African, your orange is African. No, I mean, we formed a really distinct group from our own. So we all don't look like recent African immigrants. And that is not self-hatred. That's lineage acknowledgement. Saying we have a distinct look is not really a superiority or erasure. It's a heritage defense.
Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said earlier, though, about how they can't acknowledge a melanated people in the same way that they look at Asians, Russians, Europeans, people like that? So I think what you're talking about, their motivation is that's jealousy, right? You know, they already feel like they're inferior to everyone else. It's like, no, we're not going to be inferior to, Black Americans, too.
And what Professor says, I mean, I mean, not to be egotistic. I mean, we kind of like a lot of people's gods in that way. The major challenge to Black American people is to develop a functional and profound Black self-respect. And I'm going to land my plane there.
Well, guys, Diesel Law, that was wonderful. If you look at, go back to the Jumbotron and look at Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop's page where we were talking about earlier about cultural identity. Is, as Diop said, is made into 3 equal slices. They can't do anything. The dominant society can't do anything to our, well, they're trying to do stuff with their history, with our history, but you got a lot of people like me out here, you know, and like Wani and Kush and Diesel Law and Sekhim and Final Boss, you know, 21, Media Right. You got so many people, Tariq Nasheed, defending it. So, you know, it's kind of a hard thing to erase history when there's so much out there. So that's kind of a hard vector to attack. Number 2, a linguistic factor. They tried to use television and culture to change our linguistics, but that has been ineffective because our linguistic factors are addictive and they catch on. They're contagious. You can't attack that. So in warfare, you attack your enemy's most fragile point. Where out of the 3, which one has a dominant society been attacking? Number 3, psychological factor, getting in our mind. Because when you have 1 and 3 together, you have a strong cultural identity. Never forget that. And protect your minds and protect the minds of your children. The Chinese know this. Like earlier, I said, when I was working in early childhood with those doctors at St. Jude, the Chinese, they gave me one rule. Now, I was in early childhood around 5-year-olds. And they said, Dr. Allen, teach however you want. But we have one rule, and they were collective on this. They said, do not, I repeat, do not let our children watch cartoons. Do not let them watch television. And that just drove me crazy. I was like, I don't understand that. Because, you know, anybody here has ever taught, you know that on bad days, that DVD player or that television is your best friend. You know, you pop in a video. Y'all remember how it was when you were in school. And it was kind of interrupting my game. And now, 60% of my students were Chinese. 5% were Black. I had 1 African. And the rest were Eastern Indian and a couple mixed kids and such, and white kids. The Chinese were the only ones that told me that. So one day, my FBA child wanted to watch, what's the thing? Frozen. This is back in the day. She wanted to watch Frozen, was kind of new. And I just said, you know what? Frozen is, you know, it's appropriate, age appropriate. Let's watch Frozen. So I popped in Frozen. My Chinese parents went crazy. But after I popped in Frozen, I understood why the Chinese didn't want us to watch television. Let me tell you why it was. My FBA child, little girl, and I had a Korean little girl. The Korean girl would draw these beautiful pictures of a Asian woman. You know, she'd draw these beautiful pictures. But after we watched Frozen, which she never saw, she started calling those pictures ugly and start drawing pictures of a blonde ice princess. And my FBA child would start coming to class dressed up like with a blonde wig on, like I don't know Frozen, I don't watch it, but whatever the main character was. And I was like, wow, the Chinese were right. These cartoons are psychological warfare. They're attacking your cultural identity and making you praise the cultural identity, customs, and practices of the dominant society. We're getting attacked from all directions, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Diesel Law. Well, we're going to get Sekhim, and I'm sorry, not Sekhim. 21 was before him. Go ahead, 21.
Hey, what's going on? Y'all doing all right tonight?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, y'all was hitting on a lot of stuff. I was trying to write it down as fast as I could. Yeah, I wanted to touch on like the education and stuff that you're talking about right now. Personally, myself, I mean, I really don't have an educational background. I dropped out at like 15. I just never really paid attention in school. Like, you know, usually if I was outside or something, like outside of school, I would watch like, you know, the History Channel or something like that, I'd be interested in that. But it just necessarily, when it came to school, it did not connect with me at all. And so I kind of was trying to see about like intellect versus education. And from my understanding, education is a learned skill and intellect is like your capacity for that skill and how good you can apply it. That would be correct.
Well, a learned skill. Well, education is not even what skill are you learning? And as a licensed scholar, I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm here to tell the truth. I would beg the question, what skill are you learning? I'll answer it for you. The skill you're learning is obedience. So think of a box, 21, and the box has 1 through 4 in the box, right? That's what they want you to know. Outside the box, you got 4 to infinity. Got it?
Yeah.
Education has nothing to do with intelligence. It's not a test of how smart you are. It's a test of how obedient you are. Now, I'm talking about kindergarten to medical school. Don't matter. They want you to do something their way. So, as a black man, you're not, unfortunately, you're not uncommon with a lot of our brothers and sisters that go to school and say, like somebody else in the space was saying, it's another way. I think it was Final Boss. It's another way to do this problem. When you try to do a problem another way in math, you get in trouble. A lot of teachers and professors will fail you, even though you got the answer. They may say you're cheating, but a lot of them say, no, I want you to conclude. I want you to come to the conclusion the way I taught you. So then you have to ask yourself the question of, if the answer is right, what's the difference? And the difference is obedience. Matter of fact, 21, don't feel bad about not going to school. The smartest people don't go to school. A lot of our most brilliant people do not go to a damn school.
And I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No,
I do agree with that, what you said. But okay, so basically, no, you're confirming what my understanding was of it. So you could be educated on something, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily, kind of like an example is like, it's a difference between a person that invented the car and then a person that's a mechanic. Is that pretty much?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what I'm. Okay, so yeah, that's the difference. And what I feel like, because Wani touched on it perfectly, these people are like robots. They're like, I found like the dominant society and all these other people, they're very educated, but they don't really have any intellect, if that makes sense.
Right.
And it's like, I understand, both are needed and whatnot, but I feel like they're more educated now, just currently. I'm, not overall, but currently, I feel like they're more educated. So, they study a lot. They study everything we do. I remember y'all talking about Japan the other day, how they were taking in the cars and, they're not necessarily creating it, but they are studying it. And I feel like our people, we're actually very intellectual, but currently we're just not, I won't say educated, but sometimes it could be not educated, but also miseducation.
Well, it goes back to Egypt, to ancient Kemet. Like, brother, we're living in Plato's. We're living in a white man's imagination of society, which again is backwards. And backwards is a term used to explain Luciferianism, but that's a whole nother subject. But what I'm talking about is the word education. You got to break it down. Where does it come from? The education comes from the word educare, which means to bring out. Why is that important? In Egypt, in Kemet, the teachers would try to find, their job at 7 years old was to find out why you're here. They use numerology, they use spiritual systems, they use logic to find out why you're on Earth. Basically, what are you good at? And once they find out what you're good at, their job is to educare, to bring it out of you, right? The Western European educational system doesn't bring out, it puts in. So we call that programming. It's not trying to make you the best you can be. It's trying to make you the best tool in their system, which goes to the second part of the space. Do we have a global caste system? So the education system cast you to make you a tool, either willingly or unwittingly, in the system of white supremacy.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I always kind of felt like in schools. That I felt like I was kind of being indoctrinated. It was just something that didn't resonate with me, like when they were talking, it just did not resonate at all. But I feel like they kind of don't really take, I feel like education is not bad, to educate yourself. I don't feel like that's a bad thing necessarily, but I feel like if you just lack the intellect, it just won't work out. I feel like it's a holistic thing, if that makes sense. Like, you got to kind of have both to a degree.
Yeah, you remember the movie Forrest Gump? You look kind of young. I don't know if you remember that movie. Forrest Gump.
Forrest
Gump was supposed to be an idiot, but he excelled in the Western society because he just did what he's told. Everybody in this room could be a damn medical doctor if you wanted to. All you got to do is do exactly what you're told to do. But I beg the question, how is that working? America's as sick as it's ever been. It's overweight, over-medicated. Heart disease is one of the number one, like up top 10 killers. Why do we have heart disease with all these medical schools? Because they're not teaching anything. They're teaching you how to do things their way. I was listening to Joe Rogan earlier today. I follow him sometimes, and Joe had a guy on the podcast who had an injury. He was in his 50s, and he said he was on all these medications and it's not working. And Joe talked about a fighter friend of his who was taking some type of medication for inflammation that actually was causing inflammation. What kind of fucking sense does that make? And Joe was like, there are other remedies. Cut your diet, do this, do that. But he said the doctors are not going to tell you that because they were trained to prescribe you some pharmaceutical. And even the doctors that are really smart that know, man, all this dude need to do is stop eating bread, stop eating processed food, drink water, and you'll be fine. They can't tell you that, because if they tell you that and you run and go tell a lawyer, they're going to get sued for malpractice, because the standard of practice is defined by the system. You see how the system feeds upon itself? Do what I say. And if you have a teacher or a doctor that goes outside the system, we're open for malpractice. Even though what we did was right, but that's not what you're supposed to do according to the law. It's a hot mess, man, but you brought up a really good point.
And last thing, because you brought up a good point also with the Luciferian type of attitude. And it's actually funny because I have kind of noticed that lately. It's like we kind of FBAs kind of deal with like the whole truth. A lot of other people, they do like half truths. And, kind of, I forget what it's called. It's more like I think lying by omission. I think that's what it's called. Where you're like, say like, you out and your girl call you, she wondering where you at. And you tell her, oh, I'm just at Mike's house, And she could check the iPhone and see, where your location at and all that. And yeah, okay, you're at Mike's house. But you ain't tell her what you was doing at Mike's house. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because you could be up to no good at Mike's house. So you telling like a half truth pretty much. And I feel like that's what they do. Even the Out of Africa thing, for example, it's like they'll say, oh, the oldest Homo sapien fossil we found is 300,000. Okay, that's what you found. You have to be digging up all day, everywhere on the continental shelf, everything to pinpoint where humans first, originated. So I just find it goofy. Like it's just a half truth. That's all it is. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Well, 21, the ancestors must be listening to this space, because when you were talking about the whole truth and all that, my mind said, didn't Dr. Welsing say something like that? Rung a bell, and it's no way I would have found that little paragraph in time, right? So I picked up Dr. Welsing's book, and it fell out my hand, and no shit, it fell to the page. It fell open to the page you're talking about. I swear to God. It's page 220, and Dr. Welsing says, quote, I'm serious, Wani. I'm about to prove it to you. She says, quote, one of the serious flaws in Western logic, that's white logic, thought and scholarship is the failure or inability to see things as a whole. Wasn't that what you just was saying? Welsing says, rather the tendency to perceive fragmented abstractions that are never united as one. This pattern of thought is sharply contrasted to the Eastern mode of thinking and perception that begins with the perception and analysis as a whole. So as to place in accurate perspective any fragments which may be isolated from the whole. Yep, she says the focus on destruction of the Semites of the Jewish religion as an abstraction of the context of totality of the historic Western civilization and cultural imperative for the last 2,000 years explains why there has not been to date a comprehensive understanding of the Semitic destruction of Europe from 1933 to 1945. Indeed, the Tower Institute at Brandeis University will not find the answers it seeks with the limited historical perspective of only 150 years of Semites in Europe. Yep, these universities look at a little piece when you need the whole picture to solve it, right? Back to medicine, back to Joe Rogan's example. Homeboy got an injury. Sure, he got an injury. And it was, and sure, he was in his 50s. His metabolism slowed down. But that injury was inflamed. So what did the doctor do? The doctor said, you got an inflamed injury. Let me treat the injury. Got it? A little piece of it. Let me give you some medicine, some, what do you say? Some, what do you call them things? Steroids. Let me give you some steroids. And that's going to get rid of the inflammation. That's Western logic. Piece by piece, right? Well, Eastern and melanated logic is, okay, you have an injury, but let's look at the whole picture. We're going to treat the injury and make it the inflammation go down, but what's causing this inflammation? What's causing this inflammation is all those damn pretzels, all that peanut butter, and all that shit you're eating. That's adding to the inflammation. They treat the whole picture. We're in a system that treats bit by bit, and we don't operate like that. It's confusing. Y'all ever been in school and just said, fuck this is stupid? Like, you're like, wait a minute. We have the ability to see outside of the box when the European system says, nope, just stay in the box. And that box is going to get us all killed if we're not careful.
Professor, I just wanted to jump in right quick. My sister and I, we talk about this all the time. She and I are solution-based individuals, and perpetual problems that just go around in circles annoy the hell out of us. And one thing I notice at work or in these in-the-box places is because people don't look at things holistically, or we have individuals, people, groups of people that like to keep problems going.
Yes.
If you have a resolution, and you close something out, that means you move on to something else. You can move on. You can progress. And a lot of people, you can start at the micro and then go to the macro, and you can look across any type of thing in life. It could be family, it could be friends, it could be work, it could be politics, anything where people are not solution-based. Those individuals, those types of people are normally people who like to keep problems going, but you also notice that there's never any progression. So when you look at society and you look at culture and things like that, there are some cultures that are not progressive. They are regressive, or they're stagnant. There's no net positive there. And so the thing is with foundational Black Americans, and I was just thinking about this from some earlier discussion points, with foundational Black Americans, when you look over the course of like a few hundred years, we have been progressive. We have net positives. We have a resume that is hella long with all of these accomplishments. And then you have these other groups of people that don't. And so we'll take, for instance, the West Africans. These people have no net positives. And so how do you make a group of people look regressive or stagnant when you have an ethnic group that is actually progressive and constantly moving and constantly achieving, by wiping out or trying to erase their accomplishments by putting a regressive group of people or stagnant group of people on top of them and saying that this is the face of, and then it's a manufactured reset where it looks like you have a group of people they just can't get right. We've got to help them. And so by placing these stagnant and regressive groups of people like West Africans on top of us, or the attempt, because again, as Wani said, we are shaking shit up. Well, sorry, YouTube. We shaking stuff up. We shaking stuff up. By us shaking it up, we're saying, no, you're not going to put this stagnant and or regressive group of people on top of us to manufacture a reset where you have to help the blacks. You're not helping us. We've helped ourselves. Our ethnic group has helped ourselves. We produce net positives and have been doing so for hundreds of years. So I just say that because that's a part of the reason why some people don't look at things holistically, or they're not solution based, because keeping a problem going keeps some people going.
Yes.
They are energized by negativity, and foundational Black Americans are the antithesis of that.
Well, Kush, you and
Black students, we need to know our history.
The black history we're being taught in public schools is repetitive.
As a black high school student, I want to learn more about my history in the school books.
We need to update our books.
As Black American students, we deserve an accurate depiction of what Black history truly is.
I want to see myself in these textbooks.
In the public school system, Black history is vague.
why don't the school books ever talk about the Freedmen's Bureau?
I created the workbook for the African American family. This book helps fill in the gaps that the school books don't. Purchase the workbook for the African American family on OurStoryPublications.com and use the Cash App, $Our Story Publications.